Welcome everybody to ROPS-RT1. I'm so excited to have you all join me as we work through this training program, teaching you all the modern red team techniques that we use in our job every day. So with that, let's jump into this first slide here. Again, a big welcome to you all. So excited to have you here. This course will throw you into the life of a red team operator, and it'll teach you all the tools, techniques, and tradecraft that we utilize every single day in our jobs. And that's the big cornerstone we always come back to in this course is modern red team operations. We want to see you learning all the tools in our virtual range environment and then going to use those in real world operations, hopefully just as successfully as you did in the lab environment. This course will be difficult. It's going to take a significant time investment, especially for those of you that are all brand new to the world of red team operations. Things can be very tricky when you're learning them, especially for the first time, but keep getting at it, keep putting in that practice. We're going to be talking about that a little bit more here, but just stay positive and keep learning. And those of you that are going through this program in the self-led format, y'all have an advantage because you can stretch this out over a month or 2 months if you need to continue putting in that practice and make sure it all makes sense. Those that put in the hard work required to learn all the tools, techniques, and tradecraft taught in this class can move on, attempt to pass the ROPS-RT1 certification and become ROPS-RT1 certified. Now, the overall goal of this course is to streamline that training and certification process so all of you, whether you're on a red team now or not, can walk onto a red team and contribute safely and productively day one. And that's something we're going to be talking about later in our course, just kind of the risk associated with red team operations and using bad tradecraft. I mean, you could be putting in 3 or 4 months to plan this operation, and if an operator runs the wrong command, they could get the entire campaign caught day one, which is what we want to avoid. That's why we're teaching, that's why we're certifying all this quality red team tradecraft. Now, a little bit about me. I have over 11 years of experience as a red team operator, both in the DoD and commercial markets. I've seen a ton of different assessments, so I'm super excited to share a lot of my experience with you all as we progress through this training program. I co-authored the Red Team Field Manual V2 and created the entire RTFM video library. Those of you that have been through the RTFM video library, props to you, shout out, it's a good one over there. And then I've previously built red team courses and trained over 400 individuals. Some of those have never had a red team background before I was able to train them. Others did have that red team background. So I have a lot of experience just with a wide variety. And I took all of that experience when I built ROPS-RT1, so it was effective not only with those that don't have any red team background, but also is effective against those that are more senior in the red team world and they're just looking to either certify up to a common standard or learn a lot of these new red team tool sets that are out there. And then no surprise here, most recently I built Rogue Labs just to streamline that training and certification standard. One of our big passions is bringing everyone to kind of the certified standard on different organizations. So an organization can adopt this training program and certification, put their people through it, and then they have an expectation of those operators when they're out there conducting operations, that they'll be sticking to those beacon object file plugins, that they'll understand the risks associated with forking and running in processes. These are some of the things we're going to be teaching in this course, and we're going to be holding all of you all to as you certify. Now, a couple disclaimers. What is a red team class without disclaimers, right? So number one, we are not endorsing any specific tool set as being safe. Make sure you follow your own organization standards on doing code reviews and kind of giving tools that badge of approval saying that they're okay to use. We are not endorsing any specific tool set, so please make sure you do your own code review. We'll be talking more about that later on in this course. And then number two, we're teaching folks to become red team operators to make networks safer. These tools and techniques should never be used for illegal purposes, only for legal purposes to enhance security. And then lastly, these are the words of Rogue Labs and do not represent any current or past employers that any of us here at Rogue Labs may have had. So what can you expect, right? Number one here, a ton of hands-on labs. Almost every significant topic we teach in this course is then taken to our virtual lab for execution. That's because we think red teaming is extremely hands-on. You can read a book and learn all about it, but when you get put on a keyboard in an actual red team operation, you should feel comfortable operating. You just can't get that just by jumping in a book. Number two is learning by doing. We've built our entire virtual range scenario to be very, very realistic and feel like a real world red team engagement. And that's because we want you all to train in the same type of environment that you may see out there in the real world. Number three, this one is one of my favorites. We built this entire course from the ground up to utilize beacon object file execution types. We don't use any lulbins, we don't use PowerShell, we don't use command prompt, and that's because a lot of the kind of current greatest tradecraft, a lot of the different tools folks are using out there in the real world are these beacon object files. Running command prompt, running PowerShell, those are things that antivirus and EDR programs are always looking for. So we're gonna discourage any of that use. We're gonna stick to our beacon object files, and we're gonna hold you to that standard in the certification attempt. Now here's the general flow you can expect as you go through this course. Number one, we have our lecture. This is when we present a topic, we share screenshots, we talk through the why behind it, and we prepare you to jump into our virtual range to actually execute the lab. Then you'll see we'll move on to our pre-lab expectations. This is when we share any potential gotchas. We want to prep you for the lab environment to be successful. And that means, sharing any common mess ups we see students make. That way you'll have a higher chance of success when you jump in to that lab. Then you move on to lab execution. This is the fun part. This is when you jump into Rogue Arena and you execute the lab that we have set out. There'll sometimes be some guardrails, some step-by-step that you can follow along. You'll likely have to reference the slides as you continue through the lab, using any syntax that we've shared in the slides, and you'll answer any of those knowledge-based questions that are included in the lab. These knowledge-based questions are supposed to get you all thinking a little bit more about the topic. It'll reinforce certain points that we know students really need to know and they really need to remember. So make sure you go through, you write your answers down because they will be reviewed. And then you'll watch the lab review video. This is where I go through the entire lab step by step, making sure that you all completely understand how it should be executed. I'll also be sharing any solutions to those knowledge-based questions, and we'll be talking about those as we progress. Now, those of you with physical materials, read this right here. These physical materials will provide value to you for years to come. So make sure you're writing down any notes, any other things you want included on those. You will be able to use those on the certification attempt as well. So again, anything you want to remember, write them down. Now let's talk about a really fun topic, stretch labs. So stretch labs were designed to be an extra challenge for more veteran red team operators. Folks that come through our live course, stretch labs are there to kind of keep them busy if they finish a lab ahead of time. But all of you going through our self-led, I would highly recommend you go through our certification process first, get certified, and then you can always come back and complete all the stretch labs after the fact. These typically involve executing a more advanced red team technique without direct training, how-tos, or other stuff like that. Now, a lot of these techniques that we teach in stretch labs, they are more popular, so you should be able to go out there and Google and kind of use that information in our virtual range to complete the task. These are not needed to pass the certification. So if you're struggling, please don't even look at these. Just gloss over, skip over, you can always come back to them. Each lab has a prove-it description of how to capture evidence for that lab. It may look like a short write-up on the specific technique or even a screenshot kind of proving it out. You're basically gonna zip all these up. You're gonna send them into our email, which we have right here, stretch@roguelabs.io. We'll do an analysis over it, make sure it kind of fits and sticks to our standard, and then we'll issue you your ROPS-RT1 Overachiever badge right here, which is awesome, by the way. Look at the bling there, super cool. And you'll also get a Credly badge you can add to your LinkedIn profile. Again, this is supposed to be just kind of a fun set of labs that you can do once you've completed all of ROPS-RT1. Kind of an additional, right, overachieving you can do. Which brings us to our tips for student success. Number one here, don't skip or give up on the labs and go straight to the lab review. This one's for all of you self-led students the most. It may be tempting to just skip the lab, go watch, my walkthrough step by step, and then go kind of do it on your own. And if the lab is extremely difficult, maybe you could do that, but please give it an honest try first. Your ability to kind of ingest this information and then go figure it out to some extent is extremely important for life of a red team operator. A lot of our lives are going out there, Googling, finding some new technique, and then going, kind of building it, developing it, using it, and then going and using it on an actual assessment. And that's what we're gonna try to teach you throughout this course. As I mentioned, a lot of our slides and a lot of our labs give you direction and guardrails along the way, but we won't provide you exact syntax to do things because we want you to go kind of figure it out on your own and learn how to teach yourself to some extent. So again, give them a solid try before you review that solution. Number two here, really push yourself to think through the commands you're running. Don't just blindly copy paste. I know in training classes especially, it's easy to get all the syntax together and then just start copy pasting it in and running through it. Please look through the commands you're running, look through the different arguments you're sending with the command and make sure it makes sense. Don't just blindly copy paste and blast your way through, because if something doesn't work, you're not even gonna know where to start troubleshooting because you don't understand the command itself. Number three here, pay attention to the details. Unfortunately, red team tools do not come with autocomplete. It would be super useful if a red team tool was like, hey, you used forward slashes, you probably should have used backslashes. But unfortunately, that's not the case. The smallest typo, a quote in the wrong spot, can break everything or even break the target system you're operating on. So make sure, especially on really sensitive commands, you look at that command, you pay attention to the details. You may uncover, a mistake that would have broken something. Now, I know this seems funny to mention because everyone always reads their output. However, a lot of students, even on the certification attempt, may just run through that muscle memory, run all those commands, and may not really be paying attention. So if you have a sequence of 8 commands you have to run to accomplish a technique or objective, if one of those middle commands responds poorly, maybe doesn't work, and you don't really see that, you don't pay attention, you're just kind of going through your playbook, you may get to the end of that, the technique doesn't work, and then you're totally lost as to what happened. So with that in mind, run your command, look for the appropriate output. Make sure it either says successful or behaves kind of how you wanted it to before you progress to the other commands. And that'll make a lot more sense as we progress through the training program, as you start to run these different commands. But yeah, keep your eye out, look at these commands very, very closely. There may be something that's not working right. And then the last, and my personal favorite, practice, practice, practice. Fill every second of this class with as much practice as you can possibly put in, especially those of you that are new to the red teaming world. I've seen a lot of senior red team operators that go through a virtual range environment 5, 6, or even 7 times just to master all the tools, all the techniques, all the tradecraft that we teach. This allows them to go into our second ROPS-RT1 lab environment or even the certification attempt, and they're successful. They're comfortable with everything run, they're not stressed, and then they can take those same skill sets, go out to a real world operation and use those same techniques, and again, they're not stressed. They know what they're running, they know the why behind what they're running, and they can be successful in those scenarios. Now let's talk certification test. So ROPS-RT1 concludes with a rigorous hands-on certification test, forcing students to utilize the techniques and tradecraft we've taught in an all-new mock red team scenario. Now, I know a lot of different training, certification, or test environments are very similar to that lab environment, maybe with different users, different computers, stuff like that. But spoiler alert, our certification environment is vastly different from that lab environment. It still allows you to use those same tools and techniques we teach, but you're really gonna have to understand the why behind a lot of what we teach so you can build that new exploitation path and be successful on that certification. The ROPS-RT1 certification is 20 hours long and takes place over 2 days. That's 2 10-hour days, and it'll allow you to use your notes, your labs, or your slides to demonstrate that mastery over the tools and techniques we teach. Now, this is a proctored test. You will have a proctor watching you as you conduct your test, but that's all to ensure certification integrity so folks can really rely on the validity of someone that has the ROPS-RT1 certification. Once your test is complete, we then audit the test attempt. We go through all of the operator logs to make sure that all the logging meets our standards. We also go through the C2 framework logs. We want to make sure that you didn't use any PowerShell, any command prompt, that you properly followed all of our tradecraft concerns, and a lot more of that will make sense as we progress through the course. We'll have a ton more we share about our expectations and requirements. Anyone that passes the ROPS-RT1 certification will be assigned a unique certification ID, and you'll all get a Rogue Labs certification kit. This includes a framed certification as well as the certification challenge coin and the Credly digital badge that you can add to your LinkedIn. To schedule your exam, go ahead and contact info@roguelabs.io or follow the steps in Rogue Arena to schedule your exam from there. Now let's talk support systems. So we have 3 forms of assistance that we want to provide throughout this class. Number 1 here is your peers. We're going to put you in a Discord room with all these other students that are also progressing through the ROPS-RT1 course. This allows you to lean on them for support if you have questions, if you need advice. We're trying to build a positive environment where students can come, they can ask the questions they may have, especially if they don't have that red team background, and just be met with some good responses. Number 2 is alumni. There's a lot of folks that certify in ROPS-RT1 that kind of lurk in those Discord rooms. So if you have questions for other students that have passed the ROPS-RT1 certification, definitely give it a try. You may be met with some good responses. Number 3 are expert instructors. Myself and the other ROPS-RT1 instructors will also lurk in that Discord room. So ask any questions. We're happy to respond. We also hold weekly open office hours. We'll put more info in Discord about that, but allow students to join our public office hours, ask any questions they may have. We not only answer, but we can share out our screen, go through those other techniques live. Students can ask questions. It's just a great time for students to talk with those instructors and get any additional information they may have. Now let's talk about Rogue Arena, the virtual environment we'll be using throughout the course. I did want to share a few of these notes here. Number 1, not all virtual machines are visible. Don't be shocked if you log in and you only see a Windows attack and a Kali attack virtual machine for you to use. We have over 28 other virtual machines in the background uniquely deployed to you. So you can blue screen the boxes, delete all the machines, you can do whatever you want as you progress through our training program. Once you've completed the entire ROPS-RT1 lab, it actually automatically reveals all those backend virtual machines to you to be directly controlled. So you can log into the same machines that you're putting beacons on, you can look for any popped windows, you can see users that are logged in, you can query event logs to try to see what your beacon activity is on that host. Definitely opens it up for a lot more possibilities there. Number 2, Rogue Arena does not have internet access. All of the tools, all of the payloads, everything you need for the ROPS-RT1 certification and lab environment is all provided on a share in the Rogue Arena environment. So you shouldn't have to access the internet. We do have some file upload features that are going to be available that you could use in the future. If you want to upload other open source tools or practice in our range environment with other tools, feel free to do that. Number 3, the victim customer virtual machines do not have direct access to your attack machines. That means you cannot run a beacon on that first workstation we'll be on and have it communicate directly with your Kali machine. That was done intentionally. We want to encourage individuals to set up their red team redirectors properly. That way victim machines call out to our fake website and then make it back to that Kali machine. And we'll be talking more about that later and how to properly set that up. Lastly, we have put a ton of time and a ton of attention to detail into making Rogue Arena as flexible as we possibly can. That means you can use it on multiple monitors, multiple tabs. You can, pin side-by-side screens. I've seen some students with 4 monitors with Rogue Arena open on all of them. They have the virtual machines open, their curriculum open, these videos are open in another monitor. So definitely build your optimal training experience for you. We've put all that attention into this so you can have the best training experience you can have. Now you can go ahead and click over to the next video and check out the Rogue Arena demo. I did want to share a quick disclaimer. This demo video will be updated as we continue to add more features to Rogue Arena. So you may see features and functionality in this next demo video that you can use in your own training experience, but you may not see me use that in some of the lab reviews. Just wanted to give you a heads up. Click over to that next video and check it out.